How do we design effective end-to-end tests, and what exactly should we be testing for? As we discussed in previous videos, end-to-end tests are used to verify that the integrated application is functioning as intended. So the way to design end-to-end tests is to firstly consider what the main features or use cases for the app are. Now in Print Bay, some of the main features are guest users can register an account, admin users can create a new item, admin users can edit an existing item, regular users can find an item, and regular users can add a found item to their shopping cart. Now we could make each of these use cases the basis of a separate end-to-end test. Let's start by designing a test that checks if a user can add an item to their cart. We'll continue to use the spec file test.js here, but we're going to delete the existing sanity test and create a new one. The new one will be called add item to cart. And remember, this is a function property, and the function is going to receive an object browser as an argument. And we're going to make that a fat arrow function, and we'll just leave the body empty for the moment. Now that we've chosen the use case that we want to test, we need to break it down into a series of atomic steps. We can then tell Nightwatch to perform those steps and make assertions about the page state as it does so. So to add an item to the cart, the first step is obviously to load the home page. We can then click an item that we want, and we're taken to that item page. We then click the Add to Cart button, and the item is added to the cart. So let's now get Nightwatch to perform those steps, starting with navigating to the home page. So we can do that by firstly declaring the browser object, and then we can chain the URL method. Now rather than hard coding a URL here, let's use the environment variable that ViewCLI3 supplies for our dev server URL, which is process.env.view_dev_server_URL like that. Once the home page loads, we then click on an item summary. To do that, we can use the click method. Now this method accepts a CSS selector to specify the element that we want to click. If we use the DevTools Elements Inspector on the home page, notice that the item summaries are contained in this element here, which has a class item summaries. So let's exploit that so that we can easily select the item that we want to click. So in the click method, we're going to use the selector .item-summaries, which is the item summaries class. And then we use first child. So this is going to tell Nightwatch to click the first child of the item summaries element. We don't have any assertions yet, but let's try and run this test just to see what happens. Now before we do though, we're going to need to complete our test by adding the end method like that. One more thing before we run our test is that we need to ensure that the dev server is off, because ViewCLI3 will automatically set up and tear down the dev server when the end-to-end test command is run. However, it won't set up the API server automatically because it doesn't know about it. So for now, we need to manually run that. So let's type npm run serve server. With that done, we can now run the end-to-end test suite by going into another tab and typing npm run test E2E. After this test runs, you may see this error. Unable to locate element item summaries first child using CSS selector. Now you might think this error means that we got our CSS selector wrong, and sometimes that does happen, but in this case it's the wrong conclusion. The actual issue is that we didn't wait for the page to load before trying to click the element. To do that, we can chain in a wait for element visible method before the click method here. Now this method takes two arguments. Firstly is the CSS selector for an element that we want to wait for. we can just make that item summaries. Secondly, we need to elect the maximum wait time. Let's set that to 5,000 milliseconds, keeping in mind that Nightwatch will likely find the element much quicker than that. With that done, let's run the test suite again. This time the test suite works and we now have one assertion passing. We'll continue to work on this test in the next video.